So I have come to the conclusion that the united state of mind, by seeing this as a pattern of the whole and placing yourself in the pattern to express your own unique creativity, that which is your heart's desire to be, to become, and to do, if you can connect with others to do that, what happens, you're going to be more than the sum of your parts.
E ho mai ka ike mai luna mai e o nā mea huna no e au o nā mele o ka ono ulula i ka aina o kulala i he he kai malino kai olu olu kai ma oki oki la. I am a descendant of my ancestors. And I am an ancestor of my descendants. My ancestors had built these fish ponds for us over 500 years old. They wanted to make sure, just in case Costco closed tomorrow, I'm gonna be okay. Where am I gonna find food, fresh water, medicine, building material, so we can be what we call sustainable. And so it's our kuleana responsibility to make sure that our people, and I'm not just talking Hawaiian, I'm talking world, because we're all one culture, one big family, that we all realize where our resources are, how we can malama or take care of one another. That is our responsibility. If you want food, we have fish for you. If you want fresh water, I have drink. I have coconut for you, I have fresh water for you. If you're tired, I have a hale, a house. You come and rest, yeah? I give you our land, yeah? I give you the kuleana.
Hey, the breath that's in me now was in someone else just a few minutes ago. The breath that's in someone else right now will be in me in a few minutes. The breath that's in me is going to be in the dog walking by tomorrow. It was in the bird that flew over yesterday. It's not just a pretty spiritual idea, we're all connected. The breath literally connects us. If I feel my connection to you, how can I possibly hurt you? I will feel the pain. When you wake up to the breath, you wake up to your connection to everyone.
It's an illusion that we're separate from Earth, from each other, and from the consciousness of the greater whole. That's not true. Any more than a cell in your body is separate from the body, even though it's unique. So the end of separate self-consciousness for me, I would say, was a very deep experiential revelation that's obvious, is that I was a member of the planetary body.
Modern science documents that human beings, as well as all of creation, are formed of atoms. Atoms are formed of less than 0.1% physical form and more than 99.9% what science presently calls empty space. All human beings are predominantly more than 99.9% empty space. And all of creation, nature, the earth, the cosmos, is formed of atoms. So all of creation shares this same empty space with us.
Oneness, unity, we are all one people. Everyone deserves the same, everyone deserves the best. But you see, this oneness concept is not a social concept. It is a spiritual actuality. If you speak to a quantum physicist who has been in that realm of study for at least a decade, They'll be able to tell you that unity, that inseparability, that interconnectedness is a very, very real, actual phenomenon. It is not a social construct. And so what do? We try to acquire unity through policy, through equal rights, through all kinds of movements, through protesting. And while all these things have their place and their time and their value, where I see that coming from, for the most part, is a lack of unity within ourselves.
You have trouble generating peace around you if you're sort of at war with yourself. And if your body and your brain are not working well, if you're really, really struggling, you're struggling with yourself. So then it's hard to access the parts of yourself that you have to offer about hope and peace. But if we can, again, make you more robust, if we can help limit those stressors in your life, then you have greater access to that part of yourself, and that can begin to emanate out from you and the people around you.
Meditation allows you to naturally bring the mind to the level where all the laws of nature are completely lively. When you bring the mind through transcending to that level, the result is a life lived in brilliance because you spontaneously live according to natural law.
Giving meditation and the opportunity to give our brains a chance to sort of unwind a little bit every day could be analogous to thinking of going to the gym. If I just set you on a treadmill at 8 o'clock in the morning at the beginning of your workday and said, just keep running until the clock is up at 5 o'clock and you head home, you would be so depleted and in such a state of exhaustion. And so in a good exercise regime, you always build in recovery time. Our brains are very similar. Just relentlessly demanding really doesn't offer that opportunity to rest and replenish, and our brains need that just as much as our bodies do.
Futuring offers an opportunity to people to take a deeper look into how they go about creating the future, to do that more consciously, to be aware of how to manifest things in their reality, those things that they really, really want. Thought in our brains manifest as pictures, as images. Imagine like a little video playing around the intention that you're just creating. And so the image, that video causes certain emotional stimulation. You get moved, and as you get moved, you're starting to send out a frequency. And this frequency travels from the here and now to the there and then through time and space. And this wave, when it hits the field of infinite possibilities where all these different futures live, when it hits one of those, it will actually bring that very future back. There are actually 4 different types of future, qualities of futures that we all live our lives into. There's dark futures, unwanted futures, things that we don't want, disease, divorce, things that are happening to our children, fears that we carry. The dark futures are usually related to the emotion of fear, things that we try to avoid, but they manifest in our lives. There's what we call a dim future. Dim future is where basically I have resigned myself to a certain limitation. I cannot do that. I'm not capable. And I resign to a lower level of energy, usually related to some sense of sadness and giving up and maybe a little bit of resentment, maybe blaming others in a way.
My husband Alan and daughter Naomi had an opportunity to travel to India with a group of meditators from the US, Canada, and Australia. So on November 14th, I dropped them off at the airport in Washington, and they were on their way. 10 days later, I was off to Florida to visit my family. And in the meantime, I'd exchanged emails with Alan and Naomi, and we had a phone conversation the day before I left for Florida. The next morning, I checked my email as usual, and there was no email from Alan or Naomi that day. And then the phone rang, and it was the managing director of the foundation. She said, "Kia, turn on the news. The Oberoi Hotel is being attacked by terrorists." The world just stopped in that moment, and the phone dropped out of my hand. And then I fell down to the floor on my knees. And my mother came in and said, what happened? What's the matter? And I just said, "Turn on the news." And there it was. And they were showing the Taj Hotel with smoke coming out of it. And I said, "Yeah, they must be fine. They must be fine. They must be in their rooms. And maybe they're wrong. It's the Taj that's getting attacked. Maybe they're mistaken about that." And we tried to figure out where they might be. And we had no way of reaching them. And then later on, we got another call from the managing director who said, "Well, everyone in the group is accounted for. They're in their rooms, they're safe. Except Alan and Naomi are missing. They were last seen in the restaurant under the table." And this was Wednesday evening, and Thanksgiving came and went. And then Friday morning at 6 o'clock, I got a call from the US consulate. And she said, "Mrs. Scher, I'm so sorry. Your husband and daughter were both shot and killed in the restaurant." There was one out of the 10 terrorists, there was one lone surviving terrorist, and his picture appeared on the screen. A young man, about 19 years old, and I remember staring at his face. And in that state of numb disbelief, I remembered the words of Christ, and it was, "Forgive them. They know not what they do." And I stopped and felt that go into my heart. And something felt right. I felt a ray of light come into my heart with that statement. And then I said aloud to my family, "We must forgive them. They know not what they do." And I said, "There's already too much hate. Love is lacking there. We need to send love." And that's my choice. Messages then poured in from all over the world, from Hindus, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, those with no belief, and they sent love. What does this tell us about who we really are as human beings? It tells us that we are, in fact, made of love and compassion. So as I experienced the greatest loss I've ever known, simultaneous to that, I experienced the greatest love. Can we become aware of the greater connection that we all share? And can we just bring more love, compassion, respect for life into everything we do? And it is a choice.
We suffer because we grow through suffering, and everything here on this planet is about growth and evolution. And all life has to go through these phases, these contractions, these birth contractions, as we're born and reborn, and then we die and we decline, and then there's another cycle, and another cycle is born out of that one, and each one, the turn of the circle goes up another notch, and that's the spiral of evolution.
The concept of the future wave implies that whatever it is that manifests in our reality right now is actually sent out by us as an intention. So if we manifest dark futures, if we manifest disease, divorce, depression, are we to blame for that?
The key to eliminating or improving things that hold us back is recognizing. One of the ways to deal with that effectively is to consider managing your mind before you manage the behavior. One personal example of the power of words happened to me when I got cancer. I heard them tell me three things. You got cancer, it's pretty far advanced, and it's pretty fast growing. So the resident doctors then would come in first, and they would say, Mr. Mormon, if you make it 2 years, you're home free. Just wanted to remind you that. And I had to teach the resident doctors how to talk to me, because they didn't know how to talk. And they would say, hey, if you make it 2 years, you're home free. And I would say, don't you talk to me like that. And they'd say, what? I said, don't be talking to me like that. I don't think like that. I don't believe like that. I don't act out of that. That's not in my consciousness. The last resident doctor, Dr. Johnson, said, well, what would you like me to say? I said, you tell me when you make it 2 years, you're home free. What did I ask him to do? Change one little tiny word. If to when. One little word makes that much difference? Think about all the words we said to ourselves this week.
So what do we do when the storm clouds press in on us and life gets heavy and challenging and difficult? How do we handle it? What's the way we can handle that? You know, simply put, you can either contract or you can expand. You know, those are the two options, really. You know, and contract means that you run indoors. Like say there's a storm, you run indoors and you kind of hunker down. Expand means maybe you put on your coat and your boots and you go out into the storm and you feel the exhilaration of the storm and you learn from it and you explore it. For us, it's about how we respond to crisis, how we respond to difficulty, whether that's in our personal life, in our relationships, through our health, through finances, through, you know, family problems, all those human issues. How do we respond to bigger crises like pandemics that come into the world? Essentially, the healthy way to face confrontation or difficulty is through expanding towards it. That's the secret.
Mi hijo recibió una golpiza que no se merecía simplemente por estar en un lugar que no era el indicado y quizás con algunas copas de más. Lo que causó esta golpiza fueron 27 fracturas en la cara, casi pierde un ojo y casi pierde la vida. Estoy en el hospital. Fui a visitar a mi hijo, a estar con él, y llegó un sacerdote, amigo de nosotros, y me dijo, porque me conocía cómo era yo de bronco, me dijo, Joaquín, estamos aquí y Schuster te quiere decir algo. Y Schuster, mi hijo, me dijo que él ya había perdonado. Yo me sentí un poco molesto. Me salí de ahí y sinceramente me fui a llorar. Y fue como de repente yo sentí algo. No puedo decir qué era, ni quiero inventar nada. Y en ese momento cambié mi decisión y dije, voy a hacer algo. Fue terrible, fue muy doloroso. Estaba yo muy enojado. Yo quería hacer algo como la venganza. Cuando a mi hijo que perdonó, me dio una gran lección. Y luego yo, no sé por qué, prometí que iba a hacer algo para esto cambiara, pero yo ya estaba perdonando. Y el perdón trae muchas cosas buenas. Cuando tú cambias una energía mala, como la venganza, por una energía buena, que es trabajar por el bien común o por la salud y la seguridad de los jóvenes, para que esto no vuelva a suceder, creo que es un cambio que necesitamos. Y esto es un gran ejemplo para que en todos los países cambien las cosas. En todas las guerras que ha habido se empiece de nuevo, se perdone y todos estemos unidos para cambiar esto. Solo que estemos todos unidos van a cambiar las cosas. Y la unión empieza en la familia, en el vecindario, en la comunidad, en tu pueblo, en todos lados, es que cuando tú aprendes a perdonar, aprendes otros valores importantísimos, como el respeto, como la tolerancia. Y eso es lo que necesitamos. Respetar y tolerar a la diversidad en religión, en política, en sexo, en diferentes razas. Eso es lo que tenemos que hacer.
It's not about blame. Blame doesn't help. It is an awareness again that within something happening that is not a desired outcome, that I find a way of looking and working through that issue that I'm confronted with as a challenge to find the brilliance in that. There's a learning, there's an opportunity for healing, there's a way that I can work with that's occurring that will still encourage and foster brilliance in my life.
Suffering is one of the ways, it's a phase in our human evolution. It's mostly due to the fact that we have forgotten our true nature, and our true nature is eternal.
We are often told that we are born to the image of the Creator and that the Creator is perfect. Yet we live in a life that is a little bit imperfect, and the power that we have is the power of making choices. We have the power of making the choice every day to live in the direction of higher states of consciousness.
What we have lost is the ability to realize how powerful we are. We are very, very powerful, but we have to connect to that power, and the only way you connect to that power is by realizing who you are, not what you are. You have to realize that you are the Creator made manifest as a human being.
Some might offer evidence that seems to indicate that choice is external, that we're being given a set of choices. But what we're actually given is a set of rules defining the consequences of certain choices or indicating the consequences of certain choices.
If we're going to experience peace on this planet, we need to create the peace. If I'm feeling anger, it's because I'm generating the energy of anger. And I might think it has something to do with what you said or what you did or what you didn't do or what's happening. But if I'm feeling anger, it's because I'm generating the energy of anger. And I can use my breath to generate a different kind of energy. And I can do that anytime, anywhere. And we all can. It's a choice.
We all know peace is contagious. It's a contagious idea. And so I have to be able to find and access that within myself before I can reach out and have it be a part of my community, before it can emanate from me, before I can be part of a larger community. So it's incumbent upon each of us, I think, to really reach out and find, how do I optimize those parts of myself? How do I go out the door every morning in my best shape so that I can be a keeper of peace and a promoter of peace with those around me?
There's futures that we call bright futures. Bright futures describe scenarios of what we wanted when we were maybe a teenager. The cars, the toys, the yacht, the big house, everything that also the media often presents to us as desirable. Then we get to what we define as a brilliant future. It is those futures that give us a deep sense of meaning, of fulfillment, of connection to our purpose, maybe a mission, maybe we are onto a track to really make a difference. And it usually involves contributing to other people, which then again nourishes us.
Bueno, la contribución del arte que va de la mano de la educación es algo que yo considero que va a salvar en gran medida al mundo. Todas las artes, toda esa magia va a llevar a un mundo más sensible, un mundo menos violento, un mundo más alegre, un mundo más armonioso. lo que yo puedo crear en las personas, las emociones que yo puedo crear en las personas, lo bueno que yo puedo hacer con mi arte a las personas y al mundo a través de mi imaginación. Eso me llena de mucha alegría realmente, de mucho gozo, aunque no sea para que sean artistas, ¿no? Pero el solo hecho de que a través de sus ojos entre a su mente ideas positivas y que luego las transformen, yo creo que es una cadena muy fuerte para crear de este mundo, ahora y en el futuro, algo mejor, algo más agradable, más alejado del egoísmo, totalmente alejado del egoísmo.
There's a wonderful connection that starts to happen, and it's a fulfillment for the soul to live in a way that allows me to be successful. There's nothing wrong with being successful in life, but in some ways, for it to be meaningful and deep, a deep sense of satisfaction, there needs to be a sense of really making a difference with what we're doing.
God is a flower that grew a nose to smell itself. In other words, God decided to break up into duality, or the appearance of duality, to experience itself from an infinite number of different viewpoints. So consciousness is the point of awareness in the mind of God that is feeling around and getting to know itself from an infinite number of different angles. We are all expressions of consciousness. Everything that lives is consciousness. However, as human beings, as divine beings, we have an extra spark in which we can know ourselves.
In the simplest terms, consciousness is awareness. That's a simple word, but if you think, well, you have awareness. When you're sound asleep, parts of you are aware, but you're not fully aware, and then you open your eyes in this amazing capacity to see, to hear, to feel, to touch. All of that's consciousness. Then on another level, the inner awareness that you have. How do you feel? Do you like somebody? Are you happy? Are you sad? Consciousness shows up as emotions. Consciousness also shows up as intention. I have an intention to do a film. Is that consciousness? Let's go a little bit deeper. Not only you personally, but take a big jump here. What about the universe? Is this a mindless, meaningless universe? Or is it a universe of intelligence, of consciousness, of creativity that by some miracle in the so-called Big Bang, in the first 2 to 3 seconds, it was so perfectly designed that came energy, matter, and life, and me, and you here. So we are a result of a 13.8 billion years of process. Was that process unconscious or conscious? Did it happen by accident? Or did it happen by conscious intention?
The highest state of consciousness is life lived in complete enlightenment. Complete enlightenment where there is zero darkness into our lives, zero suffering, zero limitation, zero restriction, complete use of our brain ability to comprehend spontaneously the full extent and experience of the universe. We have the ability to live in one lifetime all the intelligence and creativity that exists in the universe in one human body.
It's not an effort, but it's a change of behavior. They have to accept that every single belief system, whether it's a religious belief system, a spiritual belief system, or even most of this scientific system, accept The idea that there is a source, even if they don't understand it, that creates all this. Start focusing on that unity point without giving it a name. I give it the name one because one has no name. It's just a principle. It's a principle of unity.
And in that moment, something clicks where we realize that all the light we have ever sought, we already are. All the light we have ever wished we could be, we already are. That there's nothing to change to become enlightened. We just have to drop any belief that we're not. I don't know what the world will look like as consciousness changes, but I do know what it'll feel like. Each of us will be deeply connected to our heart and our spirit, and the mind of God, the intelligence of the universe, will be operating through each of us uniquely and individually, such that we are expressing our essence in the unique way that we were meant to do so. So I will be playing the perfect me, and you will be playing the perfect you, and somehow there will be a dance, there will be a lovemaking, there will be a mingling, there will be a music, there will be a chemistry that transcends individual differences and the experience of separation. So how it plays out is really not up to me, but the experience of it is up to me, and that I must claim to live from my own spirit and my own heart, even now, which leads to a world by invitation in which everyone is playing their own part perfectly. And we ascend, we literally upgrade to a new rung of expression because each of us is being who we were born to be.
When you find your chosen work, you're finding the impulse in you uniquely as you, and the way you know you found it is when you do it, you feel good. And there's a compass inside you, it's a compass of joy. And I consider that impulse symbolically to be the consciousness force that creates the universe. It is inside you creating you.
Many of us feel that we're somewhat out of control in regards to what we really create, what manifests in our lives. Oftentimes maybe feeling like a cork that's floating on water and we're just kind of bouncing around and things are just happening to us. And the basic message of futuring is that there's a much higher degree of control that you can have. You're increasing the likelihood of certain things happening in your life versus you just letting it happen to you.
One of the ways you can create a brilliant future is by learning how to talk to yourself in responsible, caring, conscious language. Language that empowers you rather than gives your power away. Not saying things like, he inspired me, or he motivated me, or that conference motivated me, or that workshop inspired me. I want to say, I chose to be inspired by that workshop. I chose to be motivated by his speech. I chose to motivate myself. I want people to use language that owns it, that takes responsibility for it. And if we can talk to ourselves that way, we start to think that way, we start to believe that way, we start to act that way, and we can manifest that for all of us to create a better world.
I just want to give a little, very quick, very simple method for you to be able to connect to this level of your own consciousness where this oneness is intuitively, instinctively known, felt, and where this wisdom can be intuited from and channeled from. And it can begin to inspire your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your actions, your behavior, your speech. So that unity outside ourselves can be a natural reflection of the unity we've realized, we can feel, we can experience directly within ourselves. So that the wealth is inside and it overflows outside. So that the abundance is within and it overflows outside. So that the equality is within and it overflows to the outside. And here's this very simple method. As often as you can remember, throughout the day, you don't have to change anything about your day, but just for 2 to 5 seconds, many times a day, 2 to 5 seconds, you drop all resistance to life, all thoughts, all ideas, all resistance, all struggle, all intention, all vision that you have for anything about life, about others, about your own life maybe, and you at that instant, during those 2 to 5 seconds of total peace, you completely drop every opinion you've ever had, every idea and bias and preference you've ever had. Just for 2 to 5 seconds, you step into a total, vast, spacious state of faith, of relaxation, of surrender. And in that 2 to 5 second window of practically no mind, of no intent, of no preference, of no resistance, stay alert. Very gently stay alert, and in those 2 to 5 seconds of space, of blankness, of vastness, of nothingness, become aware of this deep sense of clarity that's there, this awareness of I exist. Just that. It has no form, no shape, no thought to it. It's just this deepest feeling of yourself being, existing. When we stop thinking for 2 to 5 seconds, when we give away our thoughts and opinions for just 2 to 5 seconds, in that window, it's enough for us to awaken to this spiritual actuality, this ground of being in which unity is already a known reality.
Unity doesn't really look like anything to me. It really feels like something. It's a sense of essence, of connection with source and spirit, with my own source and spirit, and the source and spirit of others. And when I'm connected and we're connected, what wants to happen in the outer plane, in the three-dimensional world, just reveals itself and it unfolds naturally and organically and beautifully. My blessing to the future generation would be to return to the source that created you. That you are created in the image and likeness of a perfect God. And as you live from that God, for that God, as that God, everything you will ever need to know to live and improve the world is given to you.
One thing you can do is to focus on your fulfillment, on your personal fulfillment. Make decisions that give you a deeper sense of connection to yourself, and that will certainly then bring other people into the picture as well, because we're all social beings, we're all social animals. Whatever decisions I'm making is impacting my environment. So we become more aware of what do we really want. When we answer that question, we have a good chance of really contributing to others and contributing to ourselves.
So why now? Because now is the only point of power you have. The future's not here, the past is gone. This moment, this time, this instant is the only point of power you have to take action, think thoughts, say words, do anything. Now. And what's one thing you could do now? One thing is you could make a be choice. What's a be choice? The opposite of a do choice. A do choice is, what am I going to do? Am I going to mow the grass? Am I going to read a book? Am I going to watch television? Am I going to set some goals? Am I going to talk to my kids? Those are things I'm going to do. A be choice is how I choose to be when I do whatever it is I was going to do.
And there's always this gap. It seems like there's this gap between what we know we should do and actually taking action on it. You know, oh, I know I should quit smoking. I know I should lose weight. I know I should exercise. I know I should be more patient. I know I should blah, blah, blah. And then translating that into the actual doing, there seems to be a gap. So one of the things I've discovered is that when you have an intention and you immediately take a breath, you've closed the gap between that intention and taking an action. Because breathing is an action, it's a primal action. And so now for me, it's very difficult to think about something without taking action on it. I either have to stop thinking about it or I have to do something about it. I can't tolerate that structural tension anymore. The more aware I become of my breath, the more aware I become in general. So breath is that tool that we're using to become more conscious, more aware.
So we're moving from the age of the individual I into the age of the collective, the we. This is what's happening right now. This is what the world is throwing up. This is the change that's coming. This is the thing to be greatly hopeful for, because there's something incredible coming, and it's going to start opening up all over the genome, all over the species, all over the human species, as people become aware of the greater body that we exist in. And these shifts in consciousness have happened before. You know, multicellular life emerged out of single-celled life, and we're the same. You know, we are the single-celled life. You know, the selfish behavioral patterns create a world that is unsustainable. You know, always competing with each other, always having that fear of lack. These basic old paradigm patterns, they're going to shift. They are shifting inside us so that we enter into this newer awareness, this fresher awareness, this awareness that we can hardly kind of imagine at the moment.
I think we're becoming a new species. Like there was Homo Neanderthal and Homo sapiens appeared. Nobody knows exactly how. It didn't look very different to begin with, but it became Homo sapiens sapiens, and you got language, you got writing, you got culture, religion, science, art, boom. So out of our species is coming, I believe, millions of individuals who are evolving into something new. And I've given a name to the new species. The new species name for me is Homo universalis. Homo universalis, like Homo sapiens sapiens, that's the creature that knows and has self-consciousness. Homo universalis is the creature that embodies the full spectrum of capabilities of the extended spiritual, social, scientific, and technological capacities of humanity. So if you take personally the fact that you can now hold the wisdom of the world in the palm of your hand, and that's your brain. That's not just Steve Jobs, that's you. If you hold that you are now on TV and this is going to go around social media and reach hundreds of thousands of people you never met, that's part of your extended capacities. If you realize that you're going to probably find a way to build a species that can live in space and find that it's a universe filled with life, that's a new capacity. So what I have done in my research as a futurist is I started experiencing all our new capacities and taking them personally. And I decided to embody Homo universalis in my consciousness to restore the earth, free the people, explore everything that's way beyond us yet. We're being born as Homo universalis.
So for me, this is a time of great hope. This is a time in which we are moving through a kind of curtain. And on the other side of this curtain lies a new reality, a new paradigm. And this isn't just a kind of idyllic human utopian dream. Whenever a whole species goes through trauma, and trauma comes up and is thrown up from the past, our ancestral trauma, our memory of all the difficulties and the violence from our past, and our injustice, it all has to come to the surface so that it can be known, seen, transformed, purified, so that we can move on, so that we can step into the new future.
We're becoming one family again, if you want. And that's very important because everything will change when we get this realization. The way by which we operate economical system, the way we operate politically, the way by which we operate, solve our conflicts, which is now very violently done, the way by which we look at all the different aspects of the one and all the aspects of spirituality and the so-called religions. And then people around us are changing, especially our children are taught to change in schools when they're young yet, and they're not programmed, they're not adulterated yet. Is going to change the world totally.
And like all, springtimes, like it will begin with little pockets, the first early flowers that bloom in little pockets of places, in little relationships here and there, in new children that come into the world with new kinds of gifts, perhaps with new DNA, whole new strings of functioning within their architecture, so that they can see in a new way and they can experience collectively, and they of course are us. It's not fair to say really that they are separate from us. The future is us.
It would be a new heaven and earth, a future of a new heaven and earth where spiritual beings embodied in human form are making the divine present every moment in time.
For a long time, we were raised with the belief that there are people and institutions out there that know more about how to live than we do. Teachers, churches, parents, governments, social dogma. This is the kind of shoe you wear. This is the kind of food you eat. And I think we're outgrowing that. And you know, in my life, it's been a throwing off of the onus of external people telling me what to do. And only to the extent that I've made my own decisions have I become happy. We just have to have faith to keep moving ahead as if we're doing something right, as if good things are happening, as if we're attracting better, and to act as if we are the people we want to be rather than the people we've been.
As we start to focus more on creating future consciously for ourselves, it brings up the question, so how do others around us in our communities, how are they impacted by that? How am I a member of a community that creates brilliance as a whole? And what comes to mind is the notion of being the village again. The tribal settings that our ancestors lived in, they were a very organic thing that everybody was working towards the well-being of the tribe. And I believe that we have in many ways lost that tradition of thinking that way, of I need to be nourished, yes, but also others need to be nourished through that, and how can I make a contribution to the village? And if you want to think really big, then make it the global village. Maybe it's not just your community that you live in every day, but maybe it's a contribution to the bigger global village.
The best action we can take to further evolution is to be true to ourselves and to invite and accept and support others to be true to themselves. When you finally trust yourself, you will know how to live. So the more we can trust our intuitions and our guidance and our urges and our visions, that puts us in the perfect position to move the world to the next rung of evolution.
Beautiful love, United States of mind.